back of Ingebrigtsen is going to do in the 1500. He has time to look behind him. 20 years of age, and he is on top of the world.
But coming down for a maiden national crown, Cornwall is the champion.
Garouge has run his race, or has he? Has he got anything left? El Garouge trying to get there. Kipchoge, the junior's there. El Garouge is trying to get to the line. Kenya wins it. Kipchoge takes
Vivian Chariot's turn. And what a proud moment for her and the Kenyans. The first woman from her nation to take the 5,000-metre title. Vivian Chariot in Dreamland.
on the outside. Ollie Hoare of Australia comes. Jake Whiteman has just spent. It's going to be Chariot and Hoare. Who's going to get it? It's going to be Australia. The gold.
Pre-order now and make a difference. Experience the ultimate in trail running with the Tarkine Trail Devil. With its impressive combination of eco-friendly materials and advanced technology, this footwear is designed to conquer any terrain. Whether you're looking to run UTMB or simply explore the great outdoors, the Tarkine Trail Devil offers unmatched versatility, support, durability and comfort. Featuring a lightweight and responsive design with loads of support, your legs will thank you as you crush personal bests and conquer new terrain. With our company focused on sustainability and ethical manufacturing processes, you can feel good about your impact on the planet. Also, as a pre-order promotion, you have the opportunity to decide where 10% of your order fee will be donated. All pre-orders will receive their shoes during May to June 2023. Visit tarkine.com.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to share with you a fun chat I had with Reece Edwards. Many of you will know Reece as a marathon runner. With a 2:13 PB to his name, at his best, he sits comfortably within the top 10 in the country, just outside of that elite few who make the major chance teams. But recently, Reece has started turning his attention to the ultra trail running world. With a win at UTA Australia under his belt, Reece is already known as one of our best endurance trail athletes. We caught up with Reece for a to-the-point chat about his running, training, racing and more. But before we dive into it, if you dig our work, please do us a huge favour and hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Reece, good to have you on board. It's been a long time coming.
Cheers, mate. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Reece, I hear, just before we get into all the meaty running stuff, I hear you just got married. Congrats on that. Where did you head for your honeymoon?
Yeah, cheers, mate. Headed up to Hamilton Island for the honeymoon. So getting away from the Victorian autumn was bloody nice and lots of sun. I've got some Victorian and UK skin on me now, so I've got burnt the whole time. So I'm a bit red right now, but no, I had a great time up there.
You're definitely looking quite crispy.
Yes, yeah, very red. And I didn't realise how bloody hilly Hamilton Island is. I didn't do much running because it's too hilly for me.
Oh man, so you ran Buffalo Stampede the other day, right? The other week. Are you kind of in recovery mode from that still?
To be honest, I never really trained specifically for Buffalo Stampede. It was just something that an opportunity came up and I didn't really have any marathons coming up. So I just jumped in it kind of, I wouldn't say last minute, but about a month out, I decided to do it. So I just did it off kind of road prep. So yeah, I kind of chilled for a couple of weeks afterwards because I didn't pull up great from it just because I wasn't prepared for it.
Nice. And you came second, hey?
Yeah, I came second. Yeah, my quads, because I was just doing road running, I hadn't stepped on the trails for since COSI. So it'd been like 4.5 months since I stepped on a trail. Hadn't run up a hill. Literally Anderson Street, the 10 in Melbourne was the only hill I'd done. And so my quads were gone by about 30K.
Shit, man, that's pretty brutal, hey.
So
you've just been back on the road. So does that mean you're training for another road marathon, or is that just easier with your lifestyle and stuff?
It's easier for where we live as well, and just because of my job, Monday to Friday it's just easy to do road stuff. But yeah, I want to do Gold Coast Marathon, and then the plan is, I reckon, I've been contemplating what I'll do after Gold Coast Marathon, but I think I'll finally maybe make the decision to go kind of train specifically for ultras and for trail work.
Gotcha, man. So, I mean, I was just obviously doing some research for this. I was looking back over your your track times and that, and you've got obviously the 5K you ran like 14:36. Probably could have done a bit quicker, I presume, if you did more of them. 10K on the road, 30 about 30 minutes, and then marathon 2:13. You know, so obviously you think you can you're backing yourself to go a bit quicker than 2:13, or do you just want to knock another one out before you move on the trail?
Yeah, I think Gold Coast is the one Australian marathon I've never, major marathon I've never really done. I've done Sydney now, Melbourne twice. So Gold Coast is always seems to be kind of the fastest and one of the biggest ones in Australia. So it's just one I've always wanted to do. So that's why I do that. If I can run a PB, brilliant. If I can run 2:12, mate. I always said to people, if I ever ran a 2:12, I'd stop running. So dangerous game. I'm nearly there.
The 2:13, that was Rotterdam, hey?
Yeah, so I've run 2:13 twice, 3 seconds apart actually, but Rotterdam is my PB, yeah.
And you ran I think it was Chicago too, is that right?
Yeah, so my first ever marathon was in Chicago, which was a 2:16, which I was training really well for, went to altitude, and then for about the 12 months after Chicago, I had a couple of bad marathons, never really trained properly. And then it was in 2021, I kind of got my shit back together again, and I ran a 2:14, and then about 4 weeks later, a 2:13 in this Austrian race. And then that was the same year. And then in October that year, I ran my 2:13:23 or whatever it is as my PB.
Nice. How did you like, people speak highly of Chicago Marathon, obviously not the city, but how did you enjoy racing in Chicago versus, say, Rotterdam?
Yeah, so Chicago was like atmosphere wise so much better. I was an elite in Rotterdam, whereas I was just like a sub elite in Chicago, but still Chicago put on, for sub elites, they put on such a great show. But the crowd and the atmosphere in Chicago was 100 times better than Rotterdam. Rotterdam only had a little bridge that had a bit of a crowd, whereas Chicago, I would say 36 kilometers of the race, you've got like two deep crowd kind of around the whole course. So yeah, it's a whole nother level.
I was chatting to a mate the other day who's raced Berlin, Chicago, New York, and Boston, and he was saying that he thinks Chicago just has the best atmosphere, hey?
Yeah, and Chicago's cool because you go through like different parts of the city where it's like the Chinese part. One minute you're like, shit, am I in China? And next minute it's like the Mexican part. You're like, I'm in Mexico, and then next minute it's like another Latin part, and you kind of go through all these different parts of the world almost.
Classic. So are you training with Dick's squad in Canberra at the moment, or you moved? Where are you, and what's the go with all that? Because I know you used to be with Dick's squad, hey?
Yeah, so I was with Dick's squad until the end of 2018. I stopped training with Dick. So I moved away from Canberra. So when I left Canberra, I've been self-coached ever since then. So it's been 4.5 years of just self-coach stuff. So that's why my results are sporadic, because I haven't got a coach to hold me in line.
And is it, when you say self-coach, is it kind of like a Dick Telford like clone system, or has Reece Edwards gone and just shoved all this cool shit on top of it?
So 2018 till 2020, it was just a Dick Telford clone stuff. And then I moved to London. And as soon as I moved to London, I got introduced to how the Brits train. And I got to see, so now I've just got this, nothing like Dick, I would say. My training doesn't resemble anything like him. And I just have my own random shit that I reckon works for me. And the crazier, the better almost.
Sweet. And how is it different? Like in terms of, I mean, I think a lot of people listening to this will know how Dick coaches and his athletes, but what were the main changes, when you moved to the UK and saw how those guys were doing it?
Yeah. So I think, Dick runs a similar approach to all Australian coaches, where it's like a session Tuesday, session Thursday, session Saturday, long run on a Sunday. And those sessions are all run kind of threshold paces, so like pretty hard paces. Whereas the Brits, it's kind of maybe one midweek session and then one big session on the weekends. And this is the marathon approach. This is what I found. So we'll do one big session on a Tuesday in the week, and then Saturday we'll do intervals that might be 30, 35 kilometers in length, or like a long run of 40 kilometers, but the long run would be run hard. So, you could run 40 Ks at 3:25 pace. Whereas with Dick, our long run was, 4:40 pace, because you were buggered from doing 3 hard threshold sessions.
Yeah, totally. And so when you, on the weekend, if let's say you do a 40K hard on the weekend, obviously you're not on the Sunday you're not doing a long run, right? You're just chilling, or what happens then?
You would just chill, yeah. So and we'd always with the guys who are, if I was training with them in London or even here, if some of us, depending on work and depending on what we've got on, social commitments, you may swap it around. It might be do it on the Sunday and have the Saturday easy. If you did it on the Saturday, the Sunday's easy. So you just swap it around to whichever suits people.
Sweet. I mean, it's pretty similar to a lot of Americans, really, how they train. Even some of the track guys, hey, just 2 big sessions a week, and
yeah,
it's not all.
And that's it. Like Dick's volume in his sessions would be 6.8 to maybe 8 kilometers, whereas mine would now be, my midweek one might be 15 to 20 kilometers in volume. Then my weekend one might be 25 to 40.
And I presume in the other 5 days, it's kind of just cruise around, just chat into mates, and not really working yourself too hard. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say that for most of them, maybe one day or twice a week. I probably run my easier runs a bit faster now because I don't do the same amount of volume. With my job, just don't get out and double as often. I take sleep over doubles, so I'm only running maybe 160k. So I probably run my easy runs a bit faster than what I did with Dick now as well.
You're physio, right? Or
yeah, physio, yeah.
Gotcha. And so you obviously you're working full time, or you part time, or?
Now full time. So I work at Epworth Hospital. So I work in kind of the neurological field of physio. So whenever I'm with other runners and they ask me sporting questions, I don't have to answer. I can just say, "Oh, I'm actually a neuro physio."
Mate, that's awesome. So I just wanted to get into. I mean, you've got Gold Coast coming up. So obviously, we know what's happening over the next 6 weeks. You just got another 3-4 weeks training, then I guess you're going to taper, right? And so, what after that, you might hang up the road shoes and head to the trail. So, what will be the goal then? Head overseas, or are there more Aussie kind of events that you can target?
So I've looked at. So obviously, I went to Kosciuszko at the end of last year. I DNF'd. I want some redemption there, as I just want to finish the bloody thing. So
first listing, that's 100-mile, hey.
Yeah, that's 100-miler, and I got to 141 k's and I pulled pin. I mean, I'd walk in from 135, and I just, I wasn't eating correctly. I was having 2 gels, maybe 1 gel an hour, and I just completely cooked myself. I was very rookie, so I want to get back and finish that bloody thing. I don't want it to, have that one on me. So I reckon Kosciuszko miler is where I'll definitely head back to. And
it was legit snowing during Cosy, hey?
Yeah, so the first it's from the start line, there was snow. And then, so you're running in snow, I think about 15k in, it's dropping halfway down your shin, you got snow and things like that. It was an amazing event. I'll give it to them. Like, the snow added to it because you went from, snow and freezing cold through some wet kind of forest. Next minute you're down the lake and it's dry. It was really good. Just shame I didn't finish it, but yeah.
I was talking to a mate that ran that race. He finished in the top kind of 4, I think, or top 4 or 5, I think it was. And just before, and I was saying that he was saying that you were in the race, and you're saying that, look, he's a 2:13 guy, but 100 miles is brutal, and it's a bit of an equalizer. We'll see how he goes, and so I thought it was pretty.
Yeah,
I don't think,
and I think.
With all my mate's a great runner, but I don't think he's broken 3 hours for the marathon. You know what I mean? But he's just a grinder. Yeah. Just keeps going all day.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people got satisfaction out of my failure at Cosy because I'd rolled on. My first ever trail was Tarawera, and I went and got the win, and then I turned up at UTA and got the win, and I think everyone enjoyed seeing Cosy and seeing the bubble burst. So. But I learned a lot from it. And in my eyes, I think people are going to have to get faster, because the thing I learned that day, which no one would actually think this, is next, I'm probably going to blow up in every ultra I do, but next time I'm going to make sure I'm an hour up the road. So I'm going to go out a lot harder once I'm fit. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. Man, that's awesome. I interrupted you before. You were saying in terms of other Australian-based races.
Yeah, with the trail stuff, I haven't looked at heaps, because what I think my plan will be is Cozzy. And then I want to line up, say, Tarawera, maybe go to America and overseas early next year. So I think I can say this now, but I'm expecting a kid the second half of this year. So in October. Yeah, so in October, so which is really exciting. So I'll just stay domestically this year. It's not a great year for me to travel, but hopefully early next year we can get over to America and maybe chase the Western States entry and potentially, chase the UTMB entry as well.
Nice, man. That's great news about the baby, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, cheers, mate.
Yeah. It's all happening, man. Married, taking on the trail running world, kid
Oh
dropping.
no, I feel like an old man, mate. I feel like an old man.
How old are you? Am I
32.
yeah, young, man. It's pretty young, hey? Especially for the
Young,
long shit.
yeah, young for the ultra game, but I reckon the ultra game's only getting faster, and you need to be younger. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. So how getting into Western States, just a lot of people listening to this are coming from a road background, given Runners Tribe's kind of history, how do you get into Western States?
So there's two ways. So the way everyone gets into it, the average person gets into it, is I think there's a lottery, and I don't know how many years it takes on average, but I think it can take maybe 10 years to get your name drawn from the lottery. You probably have to finish a certain number of 100-mile races or 100K races to get your name in the lottery. So that's how the everyday person does. And then the other way to get in which is targeted at elites, is to have golden ticket races, a bit like your old Willy Wonka chocolate bar thing. So you have, 5 races per year, or it might be 6 races, and the first 2 finishers will get what's called a golden ticket, and that's your entry into Western States. And I think it can roll down. Say if the winner's already got an entry and rejected, you can come 3rd or 4th and still make it. So I find the golden ticket system fascinating. I find it great that you have to earn your spot. So I'll probably never put my name in the lottery, and I'll go all in on the golden ticket stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. And comparing this to, say, UTMB, like I get, there's different geography and they're pretty much different races, but is UTMB the sort of event that you would also want to target one day, or?
Yeah. So I know UTMB has heaps of elevation, but I spent a bit of time in Chamonix, and I met a few of the locals around there and went out onto the trails. And UTMB itself is kind of a runner's race, which is why someone like Jim, you will see, will go on and win it. And the guys winning UTMB are great runners as well. Whereas some of the other UTMB related events like that TDS, they're more, your mountain goats and technical terrain. But UTMB itself, the trails aren't super technical. Yes, it is mountainous, but a runner can be really, really competitive there. So I think, it's something that I'll have to spend more time in the mountains and focus on, but I reckon it's doable.
Yeah. And is that the sort of thing like you would need to move to the mountains, or like are you planning on doing that from where you're based?
No, I'd have to do some sort of relocation, or definitely you'd have to get over there. I reckon you'd want at least 10 weeks prior to be in, say, the mountains in Europe, just to be smashing your legs. It's more the conditioning of the muscles, like running down a mountain, say if it's a 20 to 25 kilometer descent. We just haven't got anything in Australia that you can run downhill for 20 and 25 kilometers. And I actually reckon when it comes to UTMB, it'd be the downhills that after Buffalo Stampede, which I learned the hard way, the downhills would be the hardest part to train for.
Gotcha. And so is that just because it pounds your legs, or is it the technical aspect, or kind of both?
No, more so the pounding. So it's like what we call eccentric load. So your quads are like lengthening whilst they're being loaded. So it's like a real vicious kind of loading process on your quads. So it takes a lot longer to recover. So whenever you've got DOMs after a race, it's because of this eccentric loading, and that's what running downhill does. So the technical aspect, I think you could pick up pretty quickly, but I think you got to condition your body for it.
Awesome, man. And qualifying for UTMB, is that a similar sort of process?
Yeah, I think UTMB, the organisation, have made it quite easy to qualify for UTMB now. They have, because they've got so many races out there, maybe 32 or more. The competition is really kind of just, it's not as much there. It's not, you can turn up to races with no depth, and you might have to finish top 3 or top 10 at certain events to get an entry. But there's no competition now because they've just kind of flooded the series
Gotcha.
with events.
Hey, did you in terms of like descending and just flying down hills and stuff on trails, did that take much adjustment for you coming from the road? I've met so many road runners and you see them on the trails trying to descend and they look incredibly uncoordinated and shit at it. Was that an issue for you, or does it just come naturally?
Yeah, so I'm still terrible at it. So Matt Crean, who beat me at Buffalo, he would second that. He was just putting time into me on every single downhill. I have a lot to learn. But I think what it is like once I didn't see the Buffalo course before it, so all of it was blind for me. So I reckon if you turn up and say UTMB, if you go and practice a couple of the descents, it might only take a week. And once you know a descent, you can fly down it. It just takes a few practice attempts at it. But it's not as big of a deal for me. I came from a bit of cycling background, had a few crashes off my bike at about 75 k's an hour. So running down a hill is not so bad.
Yeah, shit. Hey, talking about that, I was hearing that in your younger days, you kind of used to do you were into triathlon and cycling, and some of your cycles, you'd ride up to 7-8 hours or whatever, kind of in the hills west of Dorrigo. How is this true? This shit that I heard, and also how did that, like, obviously did this set you up pretty well for a life as an endurance trail runner?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was 18 years of age. I don't even know why. Like at that point, you just want to party, and I mean, I was still partying, but I got into cycling, and we'll just meet up some locals, start our ride at 4 a.m. So I'd be leaving my house sometimes at 3:30 in the morning, and and turn up and ride 8 hours, probably 200 kilometers, 220 k's with about 4,000 meters elevation, and come back in just after lunch, absolutely cooked, and we'd do that every Saturday. And then a couple of times we pushed it to the next level and did a couple of 500 k's, which took 20 odd hours. But it was just something that I got into, and I probably did I'd say 2 years worth of that, from 18 to 20 years of age. 2 years of just these massive long rides just for an adventure, and I've had some very, very dark days doing it. So I reckon it's got me primed for the ultra running world.
And were you doing that because you wanted to be a cyclist, or were you doing that just to be a crazy bastard and go for long rides for fun?
Well, this is like pre-social media, pre-YouTube and shit, right? So like at this point in my life, I didn't come from an endurance background, so I didn't actually know how to train. So I didn't know what an interval was. So I just thought, oh shit, the more Ks you do and the longer you ride, the better you're going to be as a cyclist. So deep in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, it'd be cool to, see what I can do in cycling. But obviously I was training completely wrong for cycling because I wasn't doing any intensity. So I think it started off, I wanted to be a cyclist, and then I worked out I was a bit of a nutcase and, always wanted to go further and longer, and just got addicted to finding, like, going to new places and stuff as well.
Do you still cycle now, like to cross train for the running, or not so much?
Not so much. I might get on the bike trainer every now and then, just once a week. But when I was doing a lot of this, I hadn't actually met my partner, and I've got a lot of scars on my body from a lot of crashes. So she's not super keen for me to go out there and do anything silly. But also in the back of my mind too, I don't want to go out and like get hit by a car or do something silly on a bike when I'm training for a running event. But I'm definitely going to go back to it.
Did you break many bones when you came off at 75 k an hour?
Actually, all good. I've just got like some permanent scarring, but the scaphoid bone in my wrist, there was just like bony edema, but there was no actual break. So now I'm break free.
Man. And what about the tries? So you got into triathlon after you stopped cycling, and then you went from tries into running, hey?
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot of the bike crashes. I did a few criterium races and stuff, and I was having a lot of crashes. So thought I'd do a triathlon just because I was kind of over crashing, and that got me into the triathlon world. And then I realized quite quickly that I was probably naturally better at running out of all the three legs. Running was always the one that I was actually best at, and I trained less of. So that was my kind of transition. Once I started studying physiotherapy, needed more time in my day, I just transitioned to running through that.
Nice, man. Awesome, mate. I just wanted, I think that's about it, man. It's all I had to really chat about. I want to just knock this out so people can listen to it on an easy kind of recovery run, and not take up 2 hours of people's time. And And it was awesome to chat, and good luck at the Gold Coast and beyond. Maybe we can have another quick chat later this year when you've got a big European race or whatnot on the horizon.
No, cheers, mate. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.